Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This is our Deschutes County Board of Commissioners meeting. This is our work session style upstairs, but they're all public meetings. This is 1 p.m. Monday, November 17th. And I'm just getting organized with a little bit of papers in front of us here. So first item is citizen input. And I'm just going to go through all these, and thank you very much for joining us. Michelle Martin.
Yes.
And yep, so it's at the table here. Yes, there you go.
Great.
Microphones are in the room. We do have a live video. It's recorded also.
Awesome. Thank you. Good afternoon. I have comments on DMAP today. And I want to start with, who are we? We are one community, one county, Deschutes County, one county. We're united for people living in Sisters and Lapine and Redmond and Bend. We are one county. Voting on the DMAP was hurried and out of sight. Why? Because gerrymandering is a corrupt process. That's why. The map approvers wanted to hide their actions from the daylight of data. Despite DMAP criteria number two was no political partisan maps. This map does divide us. This is the map. This map does divide us. It divides us into one political party or the other political party. But the map goes further. The map tears us apart into little gerrymandered pieces. These rigged map pieces will be served by political interests focused on keeping power and getting reelected. It's not good for our community. We are one community. All 5 county commissioners must be at large to equally serve every single family in our community and to be accountable to every family in our community. These divided, gerrymandered pieces need tossed in the trash. The top 5 vote getters, should represent our one community, our one county. And I trust that voters will unite and reject the map. Thank you for your time, and I need a trash can.
Oh boy.
Somebody offered a match.
I'd be happy to take that to the final day.
Thank you, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Lynn Connolly.
Hi, how are
Hello.
you?
Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having us. So along with Michelle, I also would like to speak to the DMAC maps. To review, a group of Deschutes County volunteers collected 7,200 signatures of citizens who agreed with the proposition to expand the current commission from 3 members to 5 to reflect the explosive growth we all know that our community has had, and to submit this proposition to the voters. The proposition did indeed get put to the county voters, and 65% of we voters agreed with the expansion. Thereafter, Commissioners DeBone and Adair then decided that it is time now, not after the next election, in which they may or may not retain their positions, to form districts. We voters did not vote on districting. We merely voted to expand the commission. These 2 commissioners formed the DMAC and skewed membership in that committee to favor partisanship. They also determined the criteria for districting, including requiring the districts to be contiguous, that there be 5 districts rather than, for instance, 4 and an at-large commissioner. Why not the option of all commissioners being elected at large and each represent one of the 4 or 5 districts in which they are required to live? And DMAC was faced with outdated data. I did attend some meetings with which to draw the mandated maps. It was frustrating for them. I am not against districting in our county. It makes sense to have a representative on the commission who shares our own life experiences where we live, rural or urban. But is it time for districting? Not yet. Let's let the new expanded commission be seated and then determine with current data at that time the makeup of the new non-gerrymandered districts, possibly with voter input at that time. This is a rushed process which exhausted the committee members and the county staff that supported them. Further, and possibly the most important point I want to make, eliminating our current privilege of countywide voting for the commissioners is undemocratic. This commission affects the lives of every single person, city and county in Deschutes County. It disenfranchises 80% of the voters for any one position. It is a giant step backwards in the voice of the citizens of Deschutes County. I would urge the commission not to advance the findings of the flawed DMAC work. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark Kelly.
Thank you. Hello, commissioners. I guess I could just say me too after the prior one. I will, I did put in a memorandum and some backup analysis to make the point I'm about to make. Rather than reading through the whole memorandum, let me just summarize it, but I'm going to start with reading the first paragraph, if I may. DMAC has voted on a 4-3 split to recommend map C for approval by the Board of Commissioners to be placed on the May 2026 ballot. There are serious defects in the approach taken by the DMAC, and map C would result in a Republican voting minority taking control of the upcoming 5-member board from the 2028 election forward. Whether by design or by coincidence, the map bears the hallmarks of gerrymandering, and this board should not adopt it when it's put in front of it. A couple of points I will follow up on. We did not vote to create districts. I think the whole process of presenting a 5-district protocol to DMAC, make this happen, I think is flawed from the beginning and did not involve adequate public input. Also, the law requires that districts be based on population. There are ways to develop population beyond just taking a 2020 census. The board and the committee decided not to follow up on that and instead use voter registration. There is no other county in the state that has ever used voter record registration records to develop commission districts. And that is also not how congressional districts are set up. The board's direction states that no district shall be drawn for the purpose of favoring any political party, incumbent elected official, or other person, but that's exactly what map C would do. Just by reference, the most recent general election, which had 79% voter turnout, saw the Democratic candidate win 53.47% of the vote versus 43.06 for the Republican. Those are the facts, but map C would have 3 of the 5 districts given to Republican voting precincts. I provided a chart that goes through each of the precincts on map C, and it has the county clerk's voting records. And it shows that by putting almost all of Bend into 2 districts, way out balancing the votes in those districts, you free up the other 3 to either favor Republican slightly or to be totally Republican in terms of voting likelihood. In other words, a party that lost the most recent general election by more than 10% stands to take control of this board of commissioners from 2028 forward, and I submit they are unlikely to ever go back to the voters to try to change that. So I provided this information to DMAC before they took their vote. I'm giving you the information before you consider the vote. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. Pete Shepard.
Chair Bowen and members of the commission, I've listened to every minute of all but one of the scheduled meetings of the District Mapping Advisory Committee. Unfortunately, neither I nor any other member of the public will listen to the final scheduled meeting of the DMAC Mapping Advisory Committee because it was canceled. As you know from my letter to you to the facilitator with a copy to you of last week, I believe that the cancellation of that meeting ran contrary to a 50-year tradition of open governance in Oregon, if not violating the actual letter of the public meetings law. And that was a great disappointment to see a governing body of the state of Oregon abandon such a fundamental principle of open governance. But that's far from my greatest disappointment with what you've done. My closed fist represents the status quo after the 2 new commissioners have been sworn into office. 5 commissioners, each representing a unified county. Commonality of interest across the board, everybody advantaged and disadvantaged to the same extent. 5 doors to knock on if you're a constituent who wants to get the ear of a commissioner. 5 commissioners who are directly accountable to each and every resident equally and entirely the same way, no matter where you live in this unified Deschutes County. It will be up to each of those 5 commissioners to find a way to bridge our differences as they represent all of us who may have a different view about issue X or issue Y. But your instructions to the District Mapping Advisory Committee were literally to disintegrate the community, to split that unified fist into the 5-finger district. That assignment was inherently divisive, and it shouldn't be any surprise that every major issue decided in the DMAC committee was decided on a 4-3 vote. My experience, perhaps naively, is that Oregonians will find a way to bridge our differences when we get partisan politics out of the way. Your instructions to the committee prevented the DMAC from doing that. You took everything except the 5-district option off the table, and you prevented them from using the creativity that Oregonians have always used to bridge their differences. Everything else was off the table. In short, you handcuffed their hands behind their back, threw them in the deep end, and expected them to tow your boat to shore. It's no surprise that they drowned instead. In addition to that, I endorse all the comments you've heard so far. Thanks.
Great, thank you. So with those 4 notes here, I've just got a couple of things, little response. So I don't understand what we're trying to fix. I mean, good people run for office. We look for the common ground to be able to serve everybody in a cost-effective fashion. So I understand your passion on this issue, but please provide content about what we're doing. You know, sometimes it goes all the way down this path of land use, and I can discuss that too. So I was to say, I'm available to talk a little bit more about this. I'm honored to be serving everybody. Thank you for sharing your thoughts. This has become very partisan. I mean, it's like it's being attacked. I'm here to serve everybody, and yes, I'm a registered Republican, but it feels like one side's attacking the other side now. So I mean, if we're here to serve everybody, then we need to take a half step back and figure out, oh, what are we doing here? So, and this is the beginning. You know, we're going to take the next few steps for making some choices about getting this to a ballot. Next, we'll be drawing by lot to map the proposed districts to a seat number. So, thank you very much for joining us today.
I'd just like to say that I really appreciate the comments of all the folks who came to give us public input today. What needs to be fixed? We have been delivered gerrymandered maps that provide disproportionate partisan advantage in forthcoming elections. That is, it runs fundamentally counter to the directions that we gave to the DMAC, proposed districts to us that do not give disproportionate advantage to any party candidate, etc. So
For what though? I was just saying, I mean, you know, we make choices for countywide for everybody in the county, so I, you know, get more specific sometimes. Maybe the,
for what do you mean for what?
so,
Why shouldn't we have gerrymandered districts? Is that what
oh
you're
no, I'm
asking?
referring to the services that we make choices about for all the citizens. So getting specific, because it's a very big generic, you know, all-encompassing statement to say somebody's been wrong somewhere. But what? I mean, I'm just referring to big, bold statements.
On what policy issues? I can tell you that the way we deal with land use and growth. I can tell you the way that we deal with behavioral health issues like addiction. I can tell you on the way that we deal with issues like homelessness. I can tell you on the way that we deal with things like how do we make our community as fire resilient as possible over and over again. I get partisan ideology that ignores the facts and data from the rest of this Board of Commissioners. And essentially, this proposal would reinforce and codify that for years to come. That's why gerrymandering matters.
Yeah, so calling it gerrymandering is, I mean, it sounds like somebody would be the gerrymanderer here. This is a public process, multiple people, reasonable decision we made. So to call it gerrymandering,
The way that
it's pointing to somebody.
The way that this committee was composed, the formula, the appointers of this committee, baked in a partisan power grab into this process. And so we should not be surprised that that is the map that this group produced.
Anything else?
No?
Commissioner?
Well, I was just looking at the report information from Mark Kelly and the total votes, it must have been, I don't know what, it's not the total voters though, his numbers. I think it's important to look. And what I do appreciate about it, and we were recommended by our current clerk and our past clerk, Nancy Blankenship, that we keep our precincts together. And so that's what they've done. But the numbers on this report actually are, they're not actually total registered voters. So that's really what I would love to see from a report. So I do think it's important to keep our precincts together. And as I've said many times, coming from Los Angeles, where we did have 5 distinct districts in LA County, it was, 2 million people in a district. So we're so fortunate here that I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 39,000 voters in each of the districts, plus or minus that variance. So we'll look forward to seeing those numbers.
Just to be clear, what was included in Mr. Kelly's testimony here is not, it is basically demonstrating for the people what happens if you apply these districts to an election. Like it's retrospective, right? It's saying if our county was broken up in these ways by these 5 districts, this is how an election would play out by looking at the specific voter behavior from a prior election. Right? And what it shows is that voters of a particular party have been crammed into 2 districts, so that voters from the other party have a little bit of a majority in the 3 other districts. That is gerrymandering. there are different ways that precincts could be kept contiguous and assembled into districts that would not produce this outcome. Literally, map A, just a quick glance at map A, in this probably would have produced a not have produced a balance like this among the 5 districts.
So we're still citizen input, so next is Mr. Al Scher.
Good afternoon. I kind of feel like maybe I'm a little out of place here because I'm not here to talk
Different
about.
topic.
I can switch to a different.
So I'm here to discuss, last week was brought up again about 40-acre acquisition for Finley Butte aggregate. So I've typed up another letter, you all have it. Just kind of going over everything again. I can read it, that's possible here. So my name is Al Shirk. I'm with owner of Spring Butte Rock, located in Pine, Oregon, just 2 miles south of Finley Butte Aggregates Pit. Regarding the request by Deschutes County to acquire 40 acres of federal lands east of the Pine for the purpose of expanding Finley Butte Aggregate. I've discussed this issue with you guys several times now, last being in June of this year. I've also attached that letter on the back of this. I want to reiterate that although Finley Butte Aggregate is out of mineable rock, the community of Pine in South Deschutes County is not. Without rock material, Spring Butte is located on 1,200 acres of mine. That's in a mine plant with the Gami. We have a lot more land than that accessible to us, but the mine plan is 1,200 acres. We've been providing such material to the community since 2020. It's come to my attention, the owners of Finley Butte claim that we do not provide the needed material. First, I'd like to point out, and I don't know if that's came to you guys yet, but these are just things I've been being told in Lapine. It's been claimed that we do not provide that needed material. First, I'd like to point out that we have it on record that our pit is, that they have been to our pit several times this year to purchase materials. Second, I'd like to clarify the difference between our 2 pits. In the current moment, Finley Butte is out of mineable land, meaning they do not have the capacity to blast or expand. In order to produce that type of aggregate material, our quarry is, as stated before, lies on over 1,000 acres of mineable land. We have the land and ability to continue to produce the aggregate materials needed. We have over 10,000 tons of aggregate products on the ground, and we are we're in the process of drilling, and we'll be blasting to produce more materials. Our new crushing team will be moving in permanently in a few short weeks and start producing more aggregate products, such as the 3/4 state spec that seems to be the issue on hand, which will be available through the rest of the season if the weather permits, and will be stocked through the future season. Just kind of jumping through this because I'm not sure what time. There's a big difference between the current conditions of both pits. The reason I'm clarifying this is because Finley Butte Aggregate is providing false claims at our pit in order to acquire these federal lands for their expansion. From my understanding, the plan would be to plan was for the public sale of the property, oh, not getting a little ahead of myself here. Sorry. So I'm just gonna, without reading this, I mean, you guys can read this, but I can just speak this easier. So the problem lies is that this goes to sale, right? Say anybody can go in and buy it. Now, the only way to access that land is through Finley Butte Aggregate. So unless Deschutes County commissioners can sign a letter and guarantee that anybody that purchases this land can use that land for mining, I'm gonna, if I go and purchase it, I'm gonna pay $1 million to go camp on a piece of land. Because they'll put a weight restriction on that access through there. The federal government is not gonna deed a new road to cut blades through the woods to this when there's already a road that goes right to it. So I guess without that in place, how do you expect that to benefit anybody or do anything for anybody? Even if I purchase it or any other rock company, Hooker Creek comes in and buys it, Knife River buys it, anybody buys that 40 acres of land, how do they mine it without purchasing Finley Butte aggregate and be able to haul a load of rock? And I say this because I own a piece of property that is on the back of a rock quarry. And when that land was divided and the rock quarry was sold, the easement that goes to that property that I own has a weight restriction on it, so it couldn't ever be mine. And they do that for a reason. I mean, they're protecting their asset, which Finley Butte aggregate would do the same thing. I would do the same thing. I mean, this whole thing was brought to my attention that, well, there hasn't been rock down there. There is rock there. We have rock. The mines have rock. There's stockpiles of rock. We ran out of one product in the last, and it ain't been but a month, maybe a month and a week. I'm not even sure right now. I mean, a week's kind of going by fast, but one product. So that would be like, say you go to your local grocery store and they don't have milk. So because they don't have milk, you're gonna get acres beside it so they can put a super Walmart in, so you can make sure you have milk next time you go there. That doesn't make any sense to me at all. So I guess my problem is, and I mean, that's one of my big problems, but so to sum it up, no matter how you lay this out, it only benefits Finley Butte aggregate. There's no other way around it. No matter whether they purchase the land or somebody else purchases the land, in the end, it's going to do the same thing. They have to get through Finley Butte aggregate. So the only way to do that is buy Finley Butte aggregate.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask legal counsel, so just for everyone else's benefit, what's under discussion right now is conveyance of a piece of federal property to the county, which we would then we have stated that we would sell under open competitive processes. So Mr. Shirk is bringing up the concern that because of access questions, you may not actually be able to have a competitive sale of this property. So I wanted an open and competitive sale. So I want to ask county legal about the possibility of, if the county gains possession of this land and we want to put it out on the market for sale, is it possible for us to condition, we're not going to put this on the market for sale unless access with an appropriate weight restriction is provided by the adjacent property owner first.
I guess you could. I mean, I don't see anything that would preclude you from doing that. And I don't know why.
In this case, because the adjacent property owner is going to be very interested in bidding on that piece of land.
Correct.
They're motivated to want the sale to proceed. So I mean, that's the only leverage that we have to basically require that, so that there could be an open and competitive sale process.
I don't see anything I can't think of anything that would preclude you from asking for that.
So I guess you could ask for it, but you can't force that hand, right?
Well, I mean
you can just say, we would like this to happen, but you can't say it has to happen.
I mean,
you cannot.
You're right.
You can't
It's
force
their
that on
land.
another property owner.
Right.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm.
But I mean, I guess what I'm questioning is, could we condition putting the property on the market on that access being provided? Right. You don't have to provide access associated with the sale. We don't have to put it on sale.
We control when we decide to put it on the market. I mean, unless there's a condition from the federal government once we actually get that property. Again, I don't know what the terms of that sale or that transfer of land from the federal government is going to contain. So it's quite speculative at this
Well,
point.
so let's get moving on. Al, thank you very much for joining us. I understand you're very engaged in this and there's been hearsay, that, you and I spoke on the phone earlier, last week now, but yeah. So thank you very much for joining us and we'll go from there.
I just wanna, reemphasize that in all the discussions of doing a land conveyance or a land deal, what has been stated is that this piece of land, if it comes into the county's possession, would be offered on a fair, for sale on an open and competitive basis. And if this is the way that we would guarantee that, then I want it to be on the record that is an option.
Thank you.
All right.
Is there anyone else for citizen input? Maybe somebody online with a raised hand feature. We might not be done here yet. Okay, yeah, so see you none at this time. Next item, commissioner announcements. Nothing going here. At this time, consent agenda. We have 4 items here, 7 minutes and a couple different items.
So moved consent agenda?
Second.
Any other discussion?
I don't need responses back, for purposes of us voting on the consent agenda today, but I would love to hear an update from the DA's office about the status of federal funding for victims assistance programs. Because, I didn't have time to go back and look, but I remember federal funding for victims assistance programs being in jeopardy just a few months back. And I'm glad to see this item basically ensuring that a certain amount of federal support is forthcoming, and we're not going to have to cut our victims assistance staff the way that we were thinking we had to, but I want a full picture of that.
So just an ask to the office to see what we can find. I do have one note. So the November 3rd minutes talks about, we were talking about water with the Oregon Water Resources. And there's just a note up, it says discussion ensued regarding difficulty of monitoring the usage of exempt wells on property size up to 1/2 acre. So I think it could just say exempt wells. We don't need to specify the size of an acre. I mean, I don't know, was there anything about 1/2 acre size?
Well,
That's when they get their watering up to 1/2 acre.
that's
There's
the
summer
amount,
uses
that's the
higher.
amount of land you're allowed to irrigate with an exempt
Okay, so
well.
it just reads
So it could
yeah.
say,
utilize,
instead, I mean,
irrigating up to 1/2 acre. Okay,
yeah, maybe you just add the word irrigating to a 1/2
Yeah.
acre.
because I was thinking we were referring to lots that size.
No,
But
No,
yeah,
it's the
I
1/2
know
acre of
that.
landscaping.
So we can work on that words, but nothing substantive, because it was just a paragraph saying discussions. With that, if there's support for that, I'll for the vote. Commissioner Jarrett, yes. Commissioner Chang,
yes.
and the chair votes yes. Item number 5, appointment of director to fill vacancy in Swally Irrigation District Board. Do you have a memo on this?
Hey, Commissioners, Dave Doyle, County Council. So Swally had some untimely deaths of 2 of their 3 board members. They now they lack a quorum, and under ORS, the burden falls to you folks to appoint someone so they now have a quorum. The Swally folks are here, their attorney, and I believe at least one of their board persons. I don't know if the candidate that they've identified is here, but under the statute, that burden falls upon you folks to make that appointment. This is not like the vector control district where you would make the appointments anyway. You're just simply filling an emergency role here. You're not necessarily vetting candidates or any of that stuff. So I don't know, Steve, maybe you want to come up and identify who you have here, but it's a pretty straightforward process. That doesn't happen often. If only one person had died, then the board itself would obviously appoint their own interim person until there's an election, but.
So this is a little bit like the Lapine Park and Rec agencies. They have processes for their own elections.
Very similar, yes.
But if you don't have a quorum, then you can't move any of this stuff
Right.
forward.
Yeah, so good afternoon, Commissioner Steve Shropshire for the record, representing the Swally Irrigation District today. So yeah, this is, first, I want to thank and commend David Doyle for very quick action. This popped up just early last week and here we are. So thank you for getting us on the agenda. And thanks to Dave for moving quickly to get this in place as well. It will help the district be able to function in a very challenging time that we just had never faced, frankly. So in any case, yeah, generally speaking, irrigation districts have the ability to appoint for vacant seats under Chapter 545. However, that chapter specifically contemplates that there would be a quorum to be able to take that action. So in this case, we're resorting to the general special districts statutes found in Chapter 198, which allows you the authority to appoint in an emergency situation such as this. Swally has identified a gentleman who's with us today, Mr. Andrade, who is willing to serve and step forward, which is always a nice thing on special district boards, as you know, not always the easiest positions to fill. So in any case, Mr. Andrade is with us today. You've got his CV and a little bit of bio information in the packet. And so I think he, and we've also got existing board member and our manager is here today. If anybody has questions, the action item is a request to have you appoint Mr. Andrade to one of the two vacant slots.
We actually don't have the CV, but Tom is a known entity.
Yes.
I don't even, first, let me just start by expressing condolences for the losses of the district. I mean, it's very remarkable circumstance, and you know, all of the Swally district board members who I've ever had a chance to speak with and work with, I mean, have exhibited just tremendous dedication to the job and to the people that they serve, and it's a huge loss. So sorry to hear.
Great, any thoughts?
Actually, well, the water district next to me, Three Sisters, was on the news for other reasons, but no, you're coming today, really a tragedy to lose 2 of 3 public servants for your water district, and we all know how important water is to Central Oregon. So I'm just glad that, thank you, Dave Doyle, for getting this on our agenda now, and so you can, you can carry on and add that third person as soon as you possibly can meet. So no, it's a tragedy to lose people like that all at the same time. Leaves a big hole in people's hearts, I'm sure.
So Mr. Andrade, you live in the district and you're a water user?
The answer to that is yes.
There we go, okay,
We
you're
have,
qualified.
8 acres of water.
I'm just, confirming, that you're willing to take this position.
I am.
Yeah, so as I say, we know each other from the community also, so, but yeah, as I say, great acknowledgement here. Sorry that we're in this situation for sure, but also thank you very much for stepping up, and yeah, we'll go from there. So is this a 5-person board that got down to?
3.
It is a 3-person board, okay.
3.
I didn't know. So.
That's the problem. 2 of 3
Oh, yeah,
passed
I know.
away, so that's why they're here.
Well, I thought maybe there was an empty seat and then 2 got dropped or something, I didn't know.
And in fact, this will go through the end of next year, so that's really excellent.
Yes, the intent is, the district manager, the intent is, so the 2 of the board members that tragically died, it's completely unrelated events, health issues, something that was just shocking to all of us. So, another urgency here is we don't have a quorum. We're at budgeting time. We were about ready to sign off on a 2026 annual budget. We're in maintenance season. We gotta get ready for irrigation season coming up in the spring, so we need to keep on spending money.
Yep.
I can't do that on my own as a district manager without, exposing myself to plenty of liability. So we found Tom, and he's willing to step up and help us get through and serve the term out through the end of 2026. He'll be then up for a 3-year term, but it will go out to election, and And in the meantime, we'll be working, these two gentlemen who are on the board will be working to appoint a third board member. And if we're unable to do so, because no one else steps up, we assume someone will, then we'll have 2 elections at the end of next year in 2026. And then, you know, that's it.
How many members do you have in your irrigation district?
About 668 patrons and we represent about 17,000 acres, 4,300 of which are irrigated.
So hopefully out of those 668 patrons, you'll find they do have to be a patron, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
It's always the hope.
Yes.
And so does this seat and the third seat, they would their terms would naturally run till the end of 2026, or are you kind of bumping up the election cycle?
They're offset, Commissioner Chang. So this will preserve the stagger, as it were. So this appointment will fill the seat that would have expired on December 31st of this coming year. And so that stagger will remain. And then when the district appoints the new third board member, that person will fill the stagger for that third seat.
Okay,
Does that make
and
sense?
when does that work?
Sure.
What's the question?
The last board seat that's vacant right now, does that
Don's,
expire?
will it come up in 2027 or?
The following year,
Oh,
so December 31st, 2027.
Okay.
And then we'll be back on
Three-year
the actual-
positions staggered.
Yeah, we keep them staggered so that we always have the opportunity to have one more
Yep.
member representing the public to come forward.
Okay, well, any other discussion or motion?
All makes sense to me. If we're ready for a motion, I can.
Sure.
Move approval of board order number 2025-056, appointing Tom Andre to director position number 2 on the Swally Irrigation District Board of Directors.
I'll second the motion.
Sounds great. Any other discussion? Seeing that, Commissioner Chang?
Yes.
Commissioner Dare?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Thank you for stepping up.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dave.
Commissioners, thank you again to David Doyle as well.
No, thank you, Dave, for making this happen so promptly.
Easy working with Steve.
There you go.
Thanks.
Item number 6, Terrebonne Community Plan update. Terrebonne.
Let's clear the room.
Oh.
It's a talent.
I'll just wait until this community plan gets
Yes,
started.
it'll be the opposite, exactly. Thank you, I appreciate that. Good afternoon, for the record, Tanya Saltzman, Senior Planner. I'm here just for a brief item. We always promise to keep the board apprised of what we're doing over in Long Range and how our projects are going. So this is just a really brief FYI and check-in about the Terrebonne Community Plan. I know there's been a lot of synergy lately. I guess it was a week ago today that you had the sanitary district come speak to you, and I watched that remotely, and that was really helpful, I thought, and it was encouraging to us as the planning division to kind of get going on this project. So I think everything's aligning, hopefully, to be able to proceed. The memo that I've given you, it just provides a general overview of our potential scope. I will say that we're still noodling around a little bit with it. Some of it will depend a little bit on if we get grant funding or not, or just we're, finessing the exact number of meetings and things like that.
So the application's been done with the LCD?
Correct, yes, I
But we don't
submitted,
have response yet.
no, that was submitted in, I believe, October 10th, October 7th, something like that. It was right after I got back from vacation.
Okay.
They usually take a couple months, so we should know, and then there's a little bit of time to kind of do the paperwork, and I would, I believe, depending on the award amount, return to the board to kind of request permission to accept that grant. So you'll know when we hear, but we have not heard yet. In general, the receipt or non-receipt or adjustment of that grant should not drastically or affect the scope of this plan. We want to do this project regardless, and we have the resources to do so. It would just help kind of ease the process a little bit, but it shouldn't change anything significantly if they decide to alter it. I did hear from DLCD and that they have a lot of asks this year for their grants, and which is no surprise. I think it was something in the order of $4 million worth of asks for about $900,000 worth of actual available funding. So we'll see. They may reduce our request amount. We don't know yet, but, so we will keep you posted on that.
Your memo says they will actually announce in 2 months.
Yeah, 2 months
So
from
if we
the,
did October 6th, that's December 6th.
should be any day now. Yeah, that's the guidance that they give. It's not always
Okay.
super precise, but yeah, hopefully soon. I'll keep refreshing my email.
Yes,
Um,
keep looking for it.
yeah, yeah.
Positive thoughts.
Hopefully it won't go to spam. So yeah, and then the rest of this memo, the proposed scope of work, this was largely from our grant application with the addition of one task at the end. I'm not gonna go through in great detail, but I'm gonna just do a kind of an overview. This is,
Question.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
Thank you very much for the memo. So, I highlighted the zoning flexibility, development standards, lot area requirements, those just kind of jumped out at me. So this is the Terrebonne, the original plat back in the day, so small lots, commercial area, crossroads of, used to be rail and then the road and Smith Rock right there too. So, yeah, how much of a zoning flexibility or development standards can be negotiated?
How much
in
can we
this
play with?
Exactly,
Yeah, I mean, that's a really good question, and I think a lot of this is gonna emerge as we progress through this, but so Terrebonne is considered an unincorporated community, and the subset of that is a rural community, and that's in state law, and that really does put parameters on kind of what you can and can't do, and we need to dive into that more carefully to figure out, if someone wants X, is that a thing that can actually happen?
But so this is the comprehensive plan chapter,
Correct.
and if it's acknowledged, then it does kind of
It will guide.
define, what's possible in that
Exactly.
urban incorporated community.
Yeah, and so the purpose of the community plan is to really do a lot of engagement, and just find out what the people want, what the people might not want, kind of vet
What the
those
state will allow, even
policies.
if you do.
What's
want it.
allowable,
There you
exactly, yeah, what,
Yeah.
making all these things overlap, so the wants and the policies and the goals that are ultimately put into that plan make sense and are legal. And then after that, the idea is that there would be zoning code updates to kind of mirror that, the same way that would happen in a larger comprehensive plan. This is just for the smaller community. And the goal is to get all of that done by the time the sewer is ready to go. So all of this is kind of gonna be happening at the same time. Part of the beginning of the first task is sort of existing conditions, infrastructure assessment. So not only will we coordinate with the sanitary district, who's obviously driving the sewer project, but the water district is a huge player, obviously. You don't wanna have sewer without water, and the water district has been there for quite some time. So we'll be coordinating with them as well as ODOT to just figure out what's the lay of the land, what's happening, what are the issues. We had a great panel discussion about a month ago with the planning commission to begin kind of poking at those issues. We had the sanitary district and ODOT and school district just to talk about kind of what's happening right now. So this will be a continuation of those discussions. We'll be diving into that Title 22, so figuring out what is allowable, what's not allowable within those unincorporated communities, like what's realistic, what's not doable at all, just so we can put some parameters on when we get that community input. We'll be updating the existing plan in terms of the community profile, the demographics, all of the kind of baseline population data, housing data, that type of thing. So that's our first step, and a lot of our tasks are going to be overlapping, so these things will be happening simultaneously. So while we're working on that, we'll also be developing our community engagement framework, and obviously that is the spine of this project. It's a community plan. You need to talk to the community. So we're figuring out the best way to do that based on our experiences in the comprehensive plan as well as the Tumalo community plan. This is going to be, and I provided a handout that was originally prepared by Nicole Mardell, who's our community engagement expert. I hope she's watching right now. She just has a lot of great strategies about how to engage the public, not just the big auditorium meetings, but going to where people are. I think that was really effective in the comp plan. Having smaller meetings with certain stakeholders. Again, some of them are agencies like the sanitary district or the water district. Some of them are informal. They might just be business owners. They might just be folks who live in Terrebonne. So we're going to be identifying who are those people that want to be at the table, and working with them to have a variety of types of engagement. And hopefully, we hope this will also include Spanish language material accessible stuff. We want to have a good virtual presence in case people can't make it physically. You know, our anticipation is that a lot of the engagement would take place in the non-winter months. So travel hopefully won't be as much of an issue, but we want to make it, you know, people have busy lives. So we want to make sure there's a virtual options for people. And some people just like that better. They don't necessarily want to go in a gym and raise their hand and talk. Sometimes I'm that person, but I think talking virtually and participating on Zoom is a comfort level for some people that they can open up better. So we're trying to just keep all options open, all channels of communication. And that's going to be a big point of this project. Let's see what else. After we develop our community engagement strategy, we'll be actually putting the rubber to the road and actually having the community workshops as well as the smaller meetings. The goal is to get input on potential policies. So this is where we're going to be talking to people about what they'd like to see happen in Terrebonne, what they wouldn't. Obviously, with the development of sewer, the development parameters may change, and so that is this is why we're doing this plan now. And a side note, we also at the Planning Commission on Thursday, we had another kind of continuing education about Terrebonne. We had one of our associate planners, Nathaniel Miller, do a kind of a planning and land use 101 in Terrebonne, to the Planning Commission. So talked about the history and the zoning, why it is the way it is, you know, the Hillman Plat, all of that stuff. So if you're interested in looking at that, I can either get you the presentation or you could watch the meeting. The Planning Commission really appreciated it. Just talking about, we had Todd Cleveland there talk about what's happening with septic, all of that. So just trying to get everybody oriented. We'll be talking about a lot of those similar issues at the beginning of the engagement process, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Let's see, other high moments of this. Once we do get community engagement and feel like we are ready to engage in policy development, we'll be doing that. You know, as you know, these plans are structured with policies and goals. So that will be the framework of this plan. We'll be checking in with the Planning Commission as well as the Board of County Commissioners throughout this to just let you know what's happening. If we receive the grant would conclude at the preparation of hearings ready documents. We usually don't commit to adoption with the grants because you just never know what's going to happen with the timeline. So the grant would, in theory, conclude at the time that everything's kind of ready to go, ready to do that legislative process. And then the grant would end and we would continue with public hearings in front of the Planning Commission, public hearings in front of the Board of County Commissioners for the Terrebonne Community Plan. At the same time, depending on how those policies and goals go, we will be developing zoning amendments that coincide with those policies and goals. We won't obviously put the cart before the horse, but we want to get that stuff teed up. So the next step after adoption of the community plan would be working on those zoning amendments as needed. And we don't know what they're going to look like at this point, but we anticipate there'll be some kind of just tidying up of the code regardless of kind of direction of the community, and then responding to those community policies and goals. And that's our general timeline. And we will be refining this in the next month or so. Our goal is to kick off in January. Grant or no grant, we will begin on that background work, especially that first task where we're getting all the infrastructure and demographic information. So we think we have a solid plan, and we're going to enlist the help of our fellow planning division participants. And I thought I heard someone coming up.
So how many these surveys will they go out?
Oh, you mean the demographic survey?
Yes.
So we're not totally sure if we're going to be doing that or not. So we'll have to figure that out. This document is meant as kind of a menu of all of our possible options. So we're going to be refining that further. We do need to decide if we want to do that survey or not. So that's to be continued. And that is all I have for now. So the next steps would be, once we hear from DLCD about the grant, staff will return to the board, hopefully, to ask for permission to accept the grant. And otherwise, we would just come back with as we progress and as we nail down dates and things like that, and to have involvement from either the board or the planning commission or whoever wants to come, and just kind of spreading the word.
So is this your project for the next year?
Yes.
There you go.
It is. That's what I've been told.
Yeah. I just think
With the
that,
help,
yeah.
I mean, we all work as a team in
Yeah.
the long range division, so, some people really love doing, for instance, we have someone in our planning division who has teaching experience, so we're hoping to do an event with, I believe it's fourth graders, and just seeing how they wanna see their community, and so we'll get their help because they're probably better at dealing with fourth graders than I am. But it'll be really fun to get just a different sense of different groups' interest and
Skate parks.
skate parks everywhere,
arcades,
dog parks,
ice cream machines.
exactly.
But yeah, I mean, I've
Yeah.
seen the team show up, we've
Yeah.
done this around the county for different things, so yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it because I personally was not involved in the Tumalo community plan because I was
Yeah.
working on something else, so this will be an exciting opportunity for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have a question or two.
Sure.
I'm interested to know how broadly we picture doing community outreach. For example, I know farmers, out near Smith Rock who are desperate for farm worker housing, right? This, the addition of wastewater, unlocking all those lots in Terrebonne presents a real opportunity to produce some workforce housing. There's people out who live really close to Smith Rock who are concerned about, I know they've gotten some of it straightened out, but overflow parking from the state park. And, one of the best opportunities to address people's access needs for Smith Rock is to have some kind of big parking lot in Terrebonne and shuttle people over. So will people in the greater Terrebonne area have as much opportunity to engage in this community planning process as the people who live kind of within the footprint of the unincorporated
Yeah,
community?
that's a great question, and yes, I mean, the goal is, it doesn't just end at the sanitary district borders or the unincorporated community borders. Obviously, those borders do exist, but our goal for outreach is to kind of get that whole greater area. We know Smith Rock is a huge driver, obviously, of what happens there. And yeah, just the lands around it. So the greater Terrebonne idea is what we want to get everybody, because it's who uses Terrebonne and lives in Terrebonne, because it's all.
Yeah, all those people need to go
Yeah.
shop for groceries.
Exactly.
Etc.
So that's our goal.
That was my first question. And my next question is, I do, from the discussion we had the last time we talked about this, I do have concerns about, angst from the Highway 97 planning coming up, bubbling back up in the community around this process. And, if that does happen, what's our strategy for, in terms of community engagement for kind of hearing, absorbing, kind of maybe de-escalating,
Right.
addressing
That's a very
those concerns?
good question, and it's something that we're kind of wrestling with ourselves. I mean, we have to acknowledge that this is a different project, and we're moving forward with the baseline that we have. We want to get people's trust. We want people to be heard. I mean, that's a huge deal. I think just the way we structure our communications is going to be really important. And I can't give you a 100% answer about exactly what we're doing, but we are very cognizant of that. And just, we want, we don't want people to be kind of spinning their wheels and really really expressing their concerns. And then, we want to take all of that into account. So our goal is also to have a community working group that will help distill kind of the larger auditorium, if you will, of people, and kind of help distill that and help kind of be another filter through that to help make sure everybody's heard and make sure all of those viewpoints are kind of captured, an interim layer that's not the planning commission, that's not the board, that's kind of important people in the community. And I hope that will go some way to helping that. But yeah, that is a concern. We're watching it for sure.
Yeah, I mean, on the flip side, when we had you watched that wastewater district update, if that really is gaining traction, being viewed very positively by, you know, a lot of people in that community. Maybe that's kind of the, one of the ways you lead with this process is like, hey, let's talk about what happens here
Right.
when after the wastewater system comes.
And I think that's very valid, because I think a lot of people's systems are failing or about to fail, so this is, it's not just about potential growth, it's about kind of fixing what's there and making sure that people are gonna be okay where they live right now and where they have been living. So, you know, it's twofold, and I sometimes forget about that, but I think that's an important thing. It's not just about new stuff, it's about fixing the old stuff. So I think engaging those people, and that is a really good, you know, a way to capture it.
The fact that we've already had over 100 people sign up for the sewer system, I think is really commendable.
Annexation,
And then the fact that the school actually, once the sewer system is in, can expand to 400 students. I think people in the region might be really delighted with that they can send their kids to a local school.
Yeah, and we had the school
I didn't
district.
realize that it had been capped at the 200, but I think that's great.
And I mean, there's opportunities, and we've had the school district at the table at that first panel, so I think they'll be a really helpful participant and stakeholder. I think the time is right. It's just I feel good. So,
Well,
thank you.
December 8th will be the Monday after the Saturday of the 6th, so if they come back to us then, that would be
Double check on
wonderful.
those dates, but yes.
Put a star on your calendar
I
for the
will.
8th.
I will. Any other questions? Well, thanks for
Great.
letting us go forward with this project, and we will post it.
Thank you so much.
No, thank you, Tanya.
And I'll come to a meeting or two too. I mean,
Yes,
it's always
please.
fun
You're
for
all
all of
invited.
us to be able to.
Yeah.
Yeah, other items, and we do have executive session today, but other items. Association Board of Counties this week, so I'll be there tomorrow afternoon. I've got a SIEC meeting in Eugene before I go to the conference, so I'll be there for the 1 o'clock session. I'll be there right after.
SIAC is a morning thing.
It's like 1:30 to 3 or something.
Oh, okay, so
I'll be driving down from here to there. I scheduled it in Eugene very specifically. I said, let's try somewhere else. How about Eugene? And everybody's followed me there. So yeah, I'm gonna be at the hotel until after. Anything else? So executive session.
The Deschutes County Board of Commissioners will now convene an executive session pursuant to ORS 192.660. The specific authorization for this executive session is ORS 192.660 subsection 2E, which allows the board to meet in order to discuss real property negotiations. Designated staff and the media are allowed to remain during the executive session. However, the media may only report that the board met in executive session, may identify basis for meeting in executive session. Recording devices are not permitted. No final decisions will be made, and at the conclusion, we will open the doors and invite the audience back to the meeting.
Okay, so we'll be in an executive session.
Dig up some rocks. We dug a pond.
So
You
we
cannot
did have
believe it.
2
We
executive
found
sessions
granite rock.
today.
It was like obsidian rock.
One of was the
when we were
litigation
digging
matters.
for our
and
pond.
Litigation matter under
No.
2H.
We were
2H,
painting
okay.
it all the way. They were
So,
actually.
but both items, please proceed as discussed. And is there anything else for this board meeting?
Anyway,
Seeing none,
no,
we adjourn.
I'm so sick of this.
Peter, thank you.
Yeah.